One thing that I've learned uh, through experience, just of being alive for a long time, is that people generally remain who and what they are. I see it, for instance, in my own family. I see each member of my family, each of my brothers, was a distinct personality. In fact, we're so different as far as personalities, even though there might be physical resemblances. People will look. You know what it's like? If you look at faces, if you look at photographs of faces, and you compare the left side of a person's face to the right side, most people, if you cover up one side of the face, cover up the other side of the face, you'll see two completely different faces. Like one is sort of longer than the other, and the other is shorter and fatter. And very often you'll see like one parent on one side of the face and the other parent on the other side of their face. And yet it's intriguing how this is so when you look at the face, and the features on both sides of the face match up. They look very much like the same face, but somehow when you separate it by covering one side or the other, they start looking like very different faces, and yet with different faces with the same features. It's very odd. Like the eyebrows both seem to match and make us a matched set of eyebrows, but then when you start looking at each side separately, you see two different eyebrows. Then you see two different eyes. One eye is droopy, the other eye is wider. So there's, at the same time, there's this peculiar disunity, at the same time that there's a unity. And I said the same thing, for instance, with my brothers, that physically, people, you can look at us and say, oh yeah, I can see the resemblance. Physically, I can see that you're brothers, or the sound of the voice might be similar. But as far as personality, in some ways, we're like completely, like if you believe in things like reincarnation, millions of people believe in, hundreds of millions of people, perhaps billions of people, believe that there's some truth to reincarnation. And if there were truth to it, just presuming that were true, that all our, like the people tell stories about being hypnotized and having past life regressions and trying to remember who they were through different centuries. And sometimes they'll say like, oh well, sometimes they'll say things like that the person who was your father in one lifetime might be your daughter in another lifetime, and be your husband or your wife in another time, and so we're all just souls floating in and out of these different bodies. And also that people who are in your family in this lifetime, their souls might be completely strangers that have been assembled like actors in a play to play your family members in this lifetime, but they're actually complete strangers. And that's really the feeling I have with my brothers, is they seem like complete strangers to me as far as their personalities and character. I don't, other than the fact that we share the same last name and the same parents, and have physical features that people could recognize as having some similarity, as far as personalities, they're like complete strangers to me. And what I see is that as we get older, as we're all past half centuries, each person had a different personality as children. And as adults, you can see that the same patterns of behavior and same attitudes that they had as children have gone with them through their whole lives and determined the course, the differing directions of each of their lives. And the personalities remain the same. They're just more developed. No, the personalities are the same, but the situations are just more developed along the lines of the paths that those personalities were setting themselves on from childhood. So, and no matter what else happens, everything that happens with each of us seems to make a kind of, it's like, oh yeah, obviously that's how things would turn out for him, because that's the way he is, and he does this sort of thing. They're still doing the same sort of things, and no amount of like introspection or psychological counseling that's supposed to help you look at yourself and be more objective and all this stuff. No amount of this seems to really have any much real effect on the behaviors. The behaviors, regardless, are exactly how each one of them could be expected to behave. Anyhow, that's one thing, I guess, to mention, that people are the same, and the same problems. And no matter how much you discuss things, the same problems that people had as children, they're still manifesting the same personality problems. And no amount of self-awareness, no matter how many thousands and thousands of dollars have been spent for going to see a psychiatrist on a regular basis, no amount of this really seems to have any particular impact on the ability of the person to sort of view their own behaviors and attitudes objectively, and maybe take a more definitive role in saying, okay, well, I'm going to change my attitude and my perspective because I can. Doesn't seem to happen. And the frustrations that I sense, frustrations that I experience in trying to deal with these same people who are now adults over the age of 50, are the same frustrations I had dealing with them 40, 50 years ago. Only worse. They're just only more. They're just the same as they ever were. Nothing's improved. Only gotten worse. Whatever the particular person's particular personality and attitude and character problems were as children, that's only that much more developed and established at this point. And you know how they're going to be. You know how they're going to behave. You know what dealing with them is going to be like, and they don't disappoint you. They always come out true to form and behave exactly as you know they're going to. So that's enough for this. That's 9 fucking minutes. Blah blah blah.